Hey guys, this is Mike from my private library with a very much needed and very out of date book review. This time I'm doing The Princess Bride by William Goldman. One of my absolute all time favorite movies. It's my sister's favorite movie. I had the great opportunity to meet Carrie Elways last year at Comic Con and got the book that he wrote detailing his experience making the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it immediately because it is one of the all time greats. It's that good. And this is the book that it's based upon. A little bit different than what I was expecting in terms of just composition. If you've seen the movie, you know the movie is a narration of this book, supposedly. This book says The Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure, which is what it says in the movie. The whole premise of this book being there was a book called The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern, who came from this real place of Florin, and William Goldman, when he was a child, his father would read to him The Princess Bride by Morgenstern. And now, older, William Goldman has created an abridged version of the original book, which was hundreds and hundreds of pages, and he condensed it down into this version, which his father supposedly read to him. Knowing that Florin is not a real country, we know that it's bullshit, but this is how Goldman presents the book. He's saying, my father read this book to me as a kid, and now I am going to give you the version that he read to me. But really, it's just all Goldman. There is no Florin, there was no S. Morgenstern. So the movie's a little different, and I guess you could say Goldman would be the Peter Falk's grandfather character, or in a way, I guess you could say Goldman could be Ben Savage's character. It's a little confusing. So, other than that, the plot sticks very close to the movie. Okay, so you have Buttercup, growing up on our farm, and Morgenstern. It's too confusing to keep going back between Goldman and Morgenstern, so I'm just going to keep saying Goldman. Goldman makes a point to mention, how she's destined to become the most beautiful woman in history, or one of the most beautiful women. And, her first relationship with Wesley, the farm boy, the slave boy, whatever you want to call him, and him constantly saying, as you wish, her slowly realizing she loves him, blah, blah, blah. And, it's a couple pages in this, which they condense down to, 30 seconds in the movie with, Peter Falk talking about, as you wish being him saying, I love you. And it is cool. I gotta say, just like after a while, because the way it presents is you have italics, and I guess the italics represent, it starts off with Goldman talking about his personal life, or his fictional personal life. It starts off with him talking about how it's his son's birthday and he wants to find him a copy of The Princess Bride, and it's out of print. So what he does is he finds the original copy, and the abridged version is what he gives to his son. It sounds really confusing, but it really isn't. So as you go along, you get to these parts with italics, and the italics are Goldman's inserts, and he basically says, I cut this part down because it was literally Morgenstern talking for 60 pages about trees, or him going on for 120 pages about, the law between Florin and Gilder. And it's like, okay, I guess that's your way of getting through explaining it. I mean, that's fine with me. This is the story we want to know. And even though you're reading this, as you would a regular book, and there are the little italic bits that you're supposed to read in Goldman's voice, you sort of, or at least I did, I wound up reading, the entire thing in Peter Falk's grandpa voice, because you just got it after a while. I mean, it's like, you're just sitting there and you're reading it, and then, you get to, there have been 5 great kisses since 1642 BC, when Saul and Delilah Corn's inadvertent discovery swept across Western civilization. Before then, couples hooked thumbs. Well, this one left them all behind. Just, you get so into it, and it is that much better if you've read it. And you get to all the parts from the movies, the trials with Wesley, you know, the sword fight with Inigo, the greatest sword fight in all of history, him beating Fezzik the Giant, and it's that good. It's that good. The movie just puts it to screen. Nothing. It is as good as it looks on screen as it is on the page. But then there's extra stuff that the movie doesn't show. Like one is, you know, the Zoo of Death, where in the movie, Fezzik and Inigo rescue Wesley from Humperdinck's little cave in the tree, and they just kind of follow where the albino went and do it. Whereas in the book, there's this huge Zoo of Death where Humperdinck goes to hunt. Like that's where he practices hunting. Like each level is a different level of deadly animals, and they don't show that in the movie, which is a little bit understandable because you know this was the late '80s and on a very low budget, I'm assuming. So, but still, you know, the movie makes it work. And one thing, a lot of these, after a while, depending on which edition of the book you have, Goldman abridges it with the. It's called Buttercup's Baby. And the story with that is, once you're done with the regular book, there's the introduction to the book where, if you don't read the introduction, it gets a little confusing. The introduction is where Goldman says, you know, he like establishes the way the book works. He says, you know, this is for my son because I didn't want my son to read the entire version because I knew he wouldn't appreciate it. I want him to read the version that my father read to me. And that sets up the whole, you know, fictional S. Morgenstern. And then after the main book is done, you know, happily ever after, or not really, as the book kind of makes it sound, which is kind of dark and a little different from the movie, but it's good. There's another little separation paragraph where he talks about, in the real world, after this came out, he had a fictional encounter with Stephen King, who loved the movie but didn't like how he abridged the book because apparently Stephen King has relatives in Florin, the fictional country of Florin, and how Morgenstern wrote a second book called Buttercup's Baby, which is supposed to be as good, if not better, than The Princess Bride. And Goldman wants to abridge that version, as he did The Princess Bride. And basically, there's a whole fictional lawsuit thing where Morgenstern's relatives don't want Goldman to do it because of how he butchered The Princess Bride, and they want Stephen King to do it. And it sounds really confusing, but it's entertaining. And so basically, in the later editions of the books, most editions, you'll find there's a little section at the back with Buttercup's Baby, and that's basically him saying, I'm going to prove to Stephen King that I can write Buttercup's Baby by abridging the first, you know, whatever it is, 5 chapters of the book. It's only a couple pages. And that's all of Buttercup's Baby that there is, but for the past however many years, 15 years, Goldman has been promising a sequel, but it hasn't happened yet. But we'll wait, and we'll see. I said, you know, at this point, I wonder how many people have actually asked Stephen King about Buttercup's Baby, because I would really love to read that version of it. But yeah, I can't say good enough things about this. If you love the movie, you will love the book. It's exactly the same. You know, all the little twists and turns, all the little moments from the movies. You know, Miracle Max. As much as Billy Crystal ad-libbed that whole scene, there's a lot of that in here. A lot of the little jokes, little nuances, little quips. It all starts in here. Every memorable quote in the history of memorable quotes comes directly out of this book. From Never Face a Sicilian When Death is on the Line to As You Wish. It's all in here, and it's all very accessible. And if you can get over the whole hump of a book within a book, but not really in a book, and the real world is being different, if you can get past that, which it's really easy to, then you will love this book as much as you love the movie. And I highly suggest going out and reading it because it is well worth it. And it reads really quick. It's, you know, my copy is about 415 pages, and I know there are different versions. There's an illustrated version. There's a really fancy and really expensive like collector's edition that came out for the 30th anniversary. And I know the further you go back, there's less of a chance that Buttercup's Baby will be in there, which doesn't really add to the story, but it's interesting if you like the main story. So, yeah, like I said, go and check this out. It's so great. So, yeah. that's it for this video. I have 2 more to go, and I have some other cool stuff that I want to talk about in other videos. So yeah, I guess I'll see you there. Thanks for checking out the review. Like and subscribe. Check out the blog, myprivatelibrary.tumblr.com. I'll see you guys around.